everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Big Picture Business Podcast. I'm Dominica.
I'm Rory.
And today we are going to talk about scheduling for success. Because if you guys have schedules, even a fraction like what Rory and I deal with every single day, you understand the value of really needing to have just your scheduling plan down pat, because it can get really out of control. So if it wasn't for certain systems in place and the different strategies that Rory and I use, things just would never get done. Truly, I would just throw my hands up and be like, forget it. There's too much to do. I'm walking away. So we're going to talk about just really mastering the scheduling for personal life and business and how that all intertwines. And Rory, you actually brought this topic up because of something that happened with your wife. Is that right?
Well, yes. This came up because she made a scheduling faux pas, let's say. And so I'll explain, but this doesn't have to do so much with your own scheduling. This is scheduling as a business owner with other people. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the reason I wanted to bring this up is because what ended up happening is she was scheduling an appointment with a client. And she said to that client, who was in a completely different time zone, she gave the client was the time zone that she was in, meaning that my wife was in.
Super common mistake. Yeah.
Exactly. Not that the client was in. Okay. And what ends up happening? Well, the client doesn't look at the actual time zone. They just see the time. What do they see? Well, what is it, like 11 a.m.? And they show up at 11 a.m. their time, not your time.
Yeah.
Which might be like 2 a.m. your time.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they're sending emails. Where are you? Why aren't you on the call? Right.
Yeah.
So that was like, rookie mistake, because she doesn't schedule a lot of calls. I usually schedule stuff for her. Right. But she's taking over and scheduling more and more calls, with some of our international clients now. And I was like, okay, this is how you have to do it.
Google is your best friend.
Yes. You always give the time in the client's time zone. Mm-hmm. Figure out what their time zone is, figure out the conversion, look it up. You just go, so I'm in Pacific time zone, mm-hmm. right? Dominica, you are in Mountain time zone, right? So there's a 1 hour difference, right? So if I was to schedule with you and I wanted to schedule a call and it's 12 noon for me, right? Mm-hmm. And it's 1 p.m. for you, I would schedule a call with you and I'd say, I'm going to be meeting with you at 1 p.m. your time, Mountain time, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And that is how you schedule a call. You don't even mention your own time zone.
It'll just throw them off.
Confuse people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I see that in emails sometimes when the client will say, okay, let's meet at, the 1 hour time difference, for example, it's like, okay, I'll see you at noon Pacific and I'll see you at 1. And then my brain just kind of quick scans it. And then I'll forget, like, wait a minute, was it my noon? Was it theirs? And so just, put one time in an email, make it easy for people to grasp.
I'll get emails where people will be like, they're not even aware of people being in other time zones.
Yeah, I know.
I'm available from 2 to 4. 2 to 4, what time?
What? Where are you?
Where do you live? Like, I have no clue, right?
I know.
You could be in Australia, who knows, right?
Yeah.
So you have to realize as you grow and build your audience that you're dealing with is global. Clientele is global. So you have to communicate on these levels and be very clear with people, or you're going to have a lot of miscommunication, a lot of missed appointments. Mm-hmm. Okay? That's one of the things that both you and I have been able to reduce, like people not showing up for calls, mm-hmm. near zero.
It very rarely happens. And when it does, It's usually like an actual family emergency or an internet glitch or whatever. It's never the fact that someone just forgot. That's not the deal.
We put things in place to make that happen. So we weren't actually going to talk about this type of scheduling right off the bat. We were going to get to this type of scheduling, but this is good to know just as business owners, like how are you scheduling with your clients, right? It's important to schedule these meetings in an effective manner and have follow-up systems in place. Okay. Don't just rely on saying, hey, here's the time, be there. Okay. We have scheduling systems that are in place. Those scheduling systems have email follow-up reminders, sometimes text reminders. Okay. Beyond that, we put it on a calendar that puts it on their calendar. Right. So all of these things play into the kind of puzzle piece of how do you get someone to show up for a meeting? If you don't do these things, if you just expect someone to remember and show up, your show up rate is going to be very low. Like make it as easy as possible for someone to remember to show up. Multiple reminders, not crazy amounts. We're not talking like, don't have 15 reminders, right? But have a 1 day reminder out, like a 1 hour reminder and a 15-minute reminder. Like that's kind of like your max. Don't do any more than that.
Yeah.
But don't have just like, hey, we're here now. If someone's not on after 5 minutes, then I'll usually text them or email them and I'll just say, hey, I'm on, even though they've got all the other reminders, just to say, and then I'll send them the link in that email, especially if it's Zoom, right? Here's the link again. I'm on. See you in a few minutes, right? If they are not on at the 15-minute mark after that call was scheduled, then it's done and I've moved on.
I think that, stop me if I'm wrong, but I think I might have been the one to tell you that early on, where I was like, I give people 10, 15 minutes max and I'm out. And I think you were much more lenient. You were like, well, maybe something went wrong or miscommunication or whatever. And you were really kind about it for a long time until I was like, no, your time is so valuable. Like it's so valuable. We've got 15 minutes or that is all.
It depends, right?
Yeah.
On how stacked my appointments are. But my appointments are back to back all the time. Yeah. So there's no way that I could start a meeting more than 15 minutes late and stay on track for my other appointments.
100%. 100%. Right? Yeah.
So, but if it's like a client and they're running late for whatever reason,
it's different. If they've given you notice.
I don't have another meeting scheduled after, then sometimes I'll let it slide. But usually it's because of, like you said, oh, there was an emergency. Oh, like something happened. It's not a matter of, oh, they forgot. It was like, hey, I had to like take my kid to the hospital type of thing. Yeah. Right?
Like, of course, there's the already established clients where you've got to you're building relationships with these people, of course. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's different. And you're a little more lenient with your clients than you are with people who are randomly scheduling. People 100%. Who randomly schedule, who don't show up, like they don't get other chances.
Not at all, because they didn't value their time enough. So why should I care?
Yeah.
They didn't value their time. They're obviously not valuing mine. I'm out. So if you're listening to this and you're getting ready to schedule a call with either myself or Rory, better be there, because there's not many opportunities for
any business owner, right? Like take it seriously. Because their time's valuable. Your time is valuable too. If you are going to book that time, be serious about it. Okay.
Did you already mention the software that we like to use? Did you mention that already?
I did not.
I've tried many different types of calendar schedule software to see what worked for me. And Rory and I ended up landing on Schedule Once. We both love Schedule Once because we can integrate our calendars together, because Rory and I have overlapping clients. And we also do the podcast, right? So I can look at his calendar and it shows me when he's available, and then it will show me my availability and see where can we plug in a meeting so that we can do the podcast just like we're doing now. So that's a really great tool, and it's got all the follow-up series that Rory mentioned, text messages, and it's just very user friendly. Now, it wasn't in the beginning, but now their systems are much better.
We've been using it for so many years. Yeah, in the beginning, when we first set it up, it was kind of like, wow, this is very tech heavy, but they've made it a little easier. But yeah, we've used a lot of other calendar systems, tried to figure out how do we make this easier. And there's some good ones. And if you have simpler needs, there's some free ones and some ones that might be, a little lower price, but for our needs and the complexity of what we do with overlapping calendars and, needing to have multiple calendars that do different things for different purposes, Schedule Once has been really great for both of us.
Yeah. So highly recommend it. We'll put a link in the show notes for you guys to make it easy for you to go check it out for yourself. I don't think they even offer an affiliate link. Like, that's how much we like Schedule Once. Just go check it out because it's a good product. They don't need an affiliate link. Like, we know we're good. But let's see. All right. So now that we've established how important it is to understand the time zones, if you're not sure what time it is in France, go Google it right now, and then you'll know.
You can just literally type in like I was saying, 11 a.m. Pacific to time in France. And a lot of times it'll just like tell you right in Google without even having to go to any page or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It'll just tell you in Google what the time is in France.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, so it's that simple now. It didn't used to be that simple. Like a few years ago, it wasn't that simple, but you had to figure out the conversions and all that. But now it is. Google's made it super simple. Google's your friend in that way.
Google, it's our friend. So a large part of scheduling for success is keeping everything organized. So depending on how many different calendars you have, like I use an iPhone. So I've got my Apple Calendar, I've got my Google Calendar, because that's what the majority of my clients will use. So I have to link all these things together to make sure that I'm getting everything. So if you're in a position like me where you like one operating system over another, just make sure you link it all. Because if you're not organized, then you're going to be making an appointment over here on your iPhone and forget that you actually have to sync it up to your Gmail. Like, it's your G calendar, it's a whole thing. So do your best to keep organized in that way.
Yeah, linking calendars, again, much easier now than it was before. I had to have all these major integrations that send things back and forth. Now you can just click a few buttons and it'll do it. But because we have all these different calendars with like Apple Calendar and Google Calendar, what it'll do is you put it on one calendar and it'll pop up on both calendars. And that, for me, when I'm using Apple Calendar on my computer, but I'm using Google Calendar on my phone, I can just put it on one, and then within a couple minutes it's on both, and then it books it out on Schedule Once, and it's blocked on Schedule Once, so that Schedule Once, no one can go on my calendar and schedule anything for that time. Mm-hmm. That's what makes it so great between all the integrations.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why someone would want to schedule in the first place. Like, foundationally, because like for me, when I first was like starting my agency and like coming out of like what we were doing in music, like you remember when we were scheduling music stuff, we'd just be kind of like, hey, yeah, we'll meet this time, and we kind of like show up and do our thing, and we'd work till whenever until we were tired, right? And then we're like, okay, I'm going home, and then I'd work for a few more hours, and then then you'd like show up again the next day, and like he'd be like, I think I'll be over at noon,
we would pretty much work until we just couldn't keep our eyes open anymore, or it wasn't safe for me to drive. It was like, I need to go home. This is it. So yeah, that's old school scheduling for you.
Yeah, and but we were kind of like locked into that, like a little bit more free form, like, we'll just make it work. We didn't have to keep track of so many things. When my agency started taking off and all of the phone calls and meetings and things I had to do started becoming really concrete, I was like, I need to figure out how to live by a calendar. And if I don't, this whole thing's going to fall apart.
There's so much that you have to remember when you get to this level, not only with work, but then you've got your family and I literally have on my calendar scheduled. It's blocked off for an hour every day of like my time. Yep. Like this is my time where nobody can schedule anything. And my phone even has for those of you who have an iPhone, I don't know if your Android does this. Do you have a Pixel? What phone do you have, Rory? Android?
It's a OnePlus.
Okay. There's a great feature on the iPhone where I can silence all calls too. It's like, it's just a button where it's like here for this whole period of time, straight to voicemail. And that's so glorious. So yeah, there's some great systems like that.
Yeah. So how do you actually start living by a calendar? Well, the first thing is to actually start putting things on the calendar, things you do consistently every day. We do things consistently every day. That's number one. Okay. So maybe you wake up at the same time every day and you eat breakfast. Well, okay, you could put that on your calendar. Maybe you shower at the same time every day. Now, maybe it's a little different on certain days. Well, you still put that on the calendar. Just put it at the time. Some people's schedules are locked in because they have to wake up at certain times because of their kids or because of work or because of meetings that they already have pre-planned, right? That's fine. But you just adjust based on that, right?
100%. Something else I wanted to say, though, is I'll put kind of silly things, like obvious things on my calendar, just so I can check it off and have that sense of accomplishment where it's like, hey, eat breakfast, check. Because there are some days where like, I won't, my day just gets so busy. It's like all of a sudden it's 4:00 and it's like, I haven't drank any water today. Like, no wonder why I feel dizzy and crazy, like, so those reminders come in, like drink water and, take a walk, like get out and do things. Like my calendar is almost like that annoying secretary. That's just like, have you done what you said you were going to do? I'm like, okay. So it's okay to schedule ridiculous, obvious sounding things if it'll get you to do them, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then the other thing is to schedule every single meeting that you have.
You can go back and bill for it if you forgot to write it down later.
Well, yeah. And it doesn't matter if you're just getting started and you only have like 1 or 2 meetings a week, but put it on there because you need to build a habit. It's the habit of doing it that allows you to actually build a system, right? Because there's going to be more that come in. And if you're building out your marketing and building your systems and focused on that, you'll have a system so that when it gets crazy, you won't have to think about it. Okay, now one of the strategies that I use for keeping track, and so that visually I need this, is that I always put the time of the meeting as the first thing before even what the meeting is.
Interesting. That's a good tip.
So for example, I was just scheduling a meeting with you, right? And it was for 2:30, right? So I put 2:30 p.m. Dominica. And so when you do that, what does it do? Well, it reminds you that you have a meeting at 2:30 and it's bold, it's bigger than the actual time on the calendar. So I can visually see it very quickly that is there and it's a important meeting as opposed to, oh, drink some water.
Interesting. That's a really good tip. For me, I put the person's name first and then a bit of information about what the meeting could potentially be about. Like if it's like if I'm scheduling with you, it'll be like Rory podcast. Like I know who I'm talking to right away because then my brain can start thinking when I look at it like, okay, I need to get in like Rory mode. Rory mode. I like that. It's like beast mode, but it's Rory mode.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have an opposite way of doing that. That's kind of fun. I appreciate having this conversation together because we very much do things differently, but yet we're still able to accomplish a lot. So not one blueprint fits all when it comes to scheduling, right? Like you've got to do what makes sense for you individually, for those of you listening or watching. But the point is just to do it.
That's with any type of scheduling, time management thing. We've always said this from the beginning of the podcast, like day one, is it comes down to finding the systems that work for you. Mm-hmm. So, we give ideas and say, this is what we're doing. This is how I do it. This is how Dominica does it. Right. And, try it out And if it works for you, use it. If it doesn't work, then try another way. Find the thing that works for you. And if it's wacky and you're like, I don't know, like no one's ever done it like this, but it works for me. Well, make it work, right? We use digital because we have so many things going on and we're giving calendars out to people online, right? But if you're a tactile person that needs it printed out, you could still use digital in that way, but you're just going to have to copy it out onto paper every single, day or as things come in, or just learn to, utilize the digital aspect of it.
Adapt to it. There's also I sent you a direct message on Instagram the other day. I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but it's the new technology where you write on it and it feels like a piece of paper, but it is in fact digital. Hold on, I gotta look it up.
Gave me one of those a few years ago.
Wait, who did?
Jason Flavin.
But you don't use it? You still just like the pencil paper deal?
Well, I like pen and paper for notes because I'm writing notes and creating checklists of things I need to accomplish for the day, but moving on.
It's called Remarkable. So it's super, super lightweight. And yeah, it's your handwriting, it's your notes and everything. Yeah. It's like a giant Palm Pilot. Remember Palm Pilot back in the day? Oh, I thought I was so cool.
Yeah, it's like a thin little piece of paper that you can write on that.
But then it like categorizes
everything.
Yeah, which is super cool. I have really, really, really bad carpal tunnel in my right wrist from years of scooping chocolate and rolling and scooping. And it's just, this wrist is just messed up. Even typing sometimes hurts and signing my name on checks. Like the most that I will write, this sounds so ridiculous, but the most that I actually put pen to paper ever is like, I'm signing something, and that's kind of it because it hurts for me to write. So I'm a digital through and through. But for people who need that tactile, get it in your head by writing, stuff like that, there's lots of cool things like that. I can't speak to Remarkable firsthand, the product, but I believe my aunt uses it for her business, and she raves about the one that she has. She loves it. So
yeah, I'm very much hybrid because I do a lot digitally, but I do a lot in my notebook too. I take notes because I understand learning process, and that when we write things that we're learning, we're implanting it stronger by actually writing it.
Yeah.
And I work better personally from a written checklist than I do from a digital checklist.
That's satisfaction.
But I work better from a digital calendar than I do from a written calendar.
Well, see, you got to do what works right for you.
So I just work with the systems, that work for me. And because all of our systems are integrated and have all our follow-up and everything's connected, it makes way more sense to have digital calendars, right? And it's so much easier to just, take out your phone and just add 45-minute block or a 20-minute block or whatever it is. I'm going to be doing this, and then have it go across all your systems. Then trying to write it down on a piece of paper in a notebook or something. And then you got to search, and then someone's emailing you, when are you available? I don't know, let me look. Oh, and then you go back and forth trying to schedule it. I just go, here's the link, and then they go, wow, you're busy. You're not available for a month. I'm like,
yes, exactly. Schedule now.
We're busy. We run businesses that's how it goes. And but when people aren't running businesses like we do, they don't realize that you can be that busy and that you can have that much business coming in.
Part of this process of building out the systems, in my experience, was that I've had to educate my clients quite a bit on that boundary of please don't email me asking me when I have time. Here's the link, bookmark it. Anytime you want to set up a meeting, please do so. But I'm just going to email you that same link again, because I'm not going to, go back into my calendar and write down all the times I have, because in between that time, when I send you back an email and you get back to me, someone's going to book a spot. So you got to here's the link.
Oh, it happens all the time, because I have a few people who, friends and stuff who will want to book times with me. And I'll still send them like the calendar link because I'm like, if you don't schedule it on the calendar, it gets booked up. And then they'll be like, can you please just tell me? And I'll be like, okay, here, this is available. This is available. And then they email me the next day and they're like, okay. I'm like, sorry, I booked up.
It happens that fast. This is zero exaggeration. I actually have like my best girlfriend. She knows it's bookmarked. She will book a time with me on my calendar. And it's always fun when those come through. I'm like, oh, sweet. I get like 45 minutes with my friend in the middle of the day to have tea, you know? So it sounds ridiculous, but that is a life of a very busy business owner. And here we are. Like doing this podcast is like my fun time. This is us having fun, people.
And I wish we could do it in person, but
I know. One day when we have our private Learjet and we can come back and forth, it'd be perfect. We'll do that. We'll try to go live from the sky.
We're both way too practical to buy a Learjet.
Isn't that funny? Like it's funny to like talk about it, but if I actually had money set aside for that, I wouldn't ever spend it. I don't enjoy spending money. I just don't. I love to make it. I'm good at it, but I really don't like spending money, especially on myself. Like I enjoy buying cars, but I'll buy really nice cars and then sell the old one. I'm like, it's a constant cycle. So it's not like I'm just sitting here with a bunch of cars.
Well, and by really nice cars, you mean like a new-ish kind of car, but
to me, nice.
Yeah, to you nice, but like it's not like, oh, I'm going out and buying like a Ferrari. It's like no. Like
the most expensive car I've ever purchased is my 4Runner. And if that, and they're pricey. I mean, I looked. I mean, a new 4Runner is very expensive. For the one that I needed, I need 4-wheel drive to get in and out of my driveway. So I had to make the investment. I sold the Beamer. Did I tell you that? Finally sold it.
No.
Yeah, bittersweet. But here's how to sell a car. I know this isn't on topic. This will be for the blooper reel later, but I did my due diligence and I loved my Beamer so much. It brought me a lot of good times, memories. I brought my daughter home from the hospital in the car. Okay. Like there's a lot of sentimental value there. And the people that ended up buying it loved that story. So I marketed my car as if it was like the coolest thing ever and told that story. And as soon as I added that sweetness aspect of it, my phone was going crazy. People wanted it, but I chose this one particular couple because they were gifting the car to their daughter who's graduating college. And I love that. It's like a sweet thing. And I ended up getting a really good deal. It all worked out, but it was, like I said, bittersweet. So yes, in terms of spending money, I'm not good at it.
Yeah. Story sells.
Yes, indeed. Stories do sell. And I like spending money on making memories.
Yeah.
So speaking of which, I'm not going to get into too many details. However, you guys should keep listening because Rory and I have some big plans in the works. And we're really excited to share it with you when all the systems are go. But we're getting there. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to keep it real vague, and you guys are just going to have to keep guessing. But there's some really cool things that we're working on for you guys, and it'll be nice to see you in person. That's the only hint, and that's it. So back to scheduling. So Rory, let me ask you, what would you say are your 3 ways that you increase productivity in general? Scheduling, productivity. What's the 3 ways that you say are like the top?
Number 1, making decisions as instantaneously as possible. Okay? Yeah. Because anytime you have to sit around thinking about like, oh, should I do this or this or this? It just eats up time. Right?
So you're saying like intuition, gut reaction, just go or don't.
A lot of times, yeah. Okay. So, and sometimes you have to hone that, and sometimes you have to be okay with making the wrong decision. Mm-hmm. If you make the wrong decision, then realize it. Don't keep going down that path, right? Just because you made the decision, you have to be willing to say, okay, yeah, I messed up. Okay, we need to go back and go the other direction.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, just not lingering on your decisions. Because I was thinking about this yesterday about making buying decisions. Okay. There's a whole subset of people who just see an idea of a product, or, they're just looking for that one thing that needs to be solved. And they're willing to pay whatever price that's somewhat reasonable. It may, depending on how much it solves for them. But I was thinking about this. I was like having this one thing that I was trying to solve. And I was like, there's no one offering it. If someone could figure this out and solve it for me, like if they literally just said, I can solve this, it's $1,000, they wouldn't have to show me a webinar. They wouldn't have to show me a sales video. I would just be like, click, buy, done. Right? I wouldn't need a sales pitch. I just need the solution. And I'm not going to sit there and read a whole sales page or go through it. Right. But
which is funny because you're like the webinar guy.
Right. But there's a certain market that needs that.
Yeah.
They have to sit there. Right. And at a certain price point, I'm not going to be doing that either.
Yeah.
But there's a certain price point where, like, every person is at, where they're just going to see something that they instantly are thinking about, that I need that. I want that. I can purchase it. I have the money for it. Click. It's going to solve whatever it is that I'm needing right now. And when you start tapping into that market and realizing that there's people like that, you have to give them the opportunity to purchase right away. Right. And when we start realizing that decisions are made actually very quickly, a lot of the time, even when I get on a webinar to purchase, or because I know it's a sales pitch usually, right? So it's like, I've already decided, and it's just, okay, well, I'm just getting more information.
Yeah.
And it's like, unless they say something really, really stupid, then, it's like, I'm probably going to be purchasing this. I'm just waiting for them to give me the link.
Yeah.
Right.
I know. You and I talk about that a lot, where it's like, even if you purchase a course, that model where they give it to you like one video a week. No, give me the entire thing now. I want to binge the course. I'm motivated now to do it. Same thing.
That's you. That's me. That's not everyone. And that's why my program is spaced out daily videos, 90 days, right? I had to explain this to some of our students.
What you're offering is a creative process, right? So it'd be impossible to binge. It could, but that'd be a lot to do.
Well, it's implementation too, right? Yeah. So what you're doing is you're learning a little bit of information and then spending the time implementing. It's really hard to take in a little bit of information, 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 a little bit of information. If you took in an hour worth of information, but then had 7 hours worth of implementation within just 1 week, that's a lot to take in. And then you say, okay, well, yeah, I binged that 1 week worth of content, but now what? Now I'm like overwhelmed because I didn't actually implement. Yeah. So it's a totally different model and structure to what is done in traditional, online education platform, models. Yeah. Let's see. Number 3 for productivity. For me, it's learning how to be in the flow instantaneously.
Like adapting to what's happening?
Well, yeah. So, there's always distractions going on, right? And they say that as soon as you get pulled out of a situation, it takes you 20 minutes to get back into it, right? So, and this comes from writing books and stuff like that, where people will be like, oh, when you start writing, if someone interrupts you, then it's going to take you 20 minutes just to get back into the flow of things and get your train of thought and get back into that state, right? Well, what I found is that if you can consistently live in that state, or just turn on that state instantly, then what happens? Well, you can just start going on an idea. You get that idea and you go, oh, okay, I'm going to just right. And this is how I write books, just standing in TSA lines or at a grocery store or whatever, because I'm just using my free time. I don't have to get into a mindset, right? It's why I wrote songs so quickly, still do, right? You know, I was telling our friend Adam the other day, and he commented on this, you know, because I wrote a song for a project with him, and I was like, I had 3 hours, and I wrote the song, and he's like, you work really fast, and I was like, well, yeah, I have to. There is no place for me to not work fast. I don't have any other time available.
In my experience with working with you with music, though, is we kept finding that the faster the flow was, we would go back, like, how can we improve this? But without fail, almost every time it was like, well, the first version was the best, or the first time that, you know,
we try to like overanalyze, right?
Yeah, we're very good at that.
More time back then,
right?
Like, we didn't have kids, we didn't have like crazy businesses, and we'd sit there and we'd go, oh yeah, like let's revisit this, let's see, you know, let's dig deeper into this. And like, you're right, like we could have been done with stuff a lot quicker. And as we continue to do stuff more and more and improve, what ended up happening? Well, our process got quicker and quicker, right? And my process definitely, as from a songwriting standpoint, to the point now where it's like, you know, just a few hours and I can have a whole song written and done, because I'm just instantly making micro decisions all along the way. And those decisions are just yes or no, yes or no, yes or no, yes or no, yes or no.
What's fantastic about that, like, you and I have that ability to be able to do it, which is so cool, but we can also do it for like all of our clients. Rory and I have this ability to be able to put like big picture stuff together. It's like we can grab things and be like, okay, we see it really clearly. You need this, 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 and this. Here you go. Let's run with it. Let's go and make some money. Let's make it happen. Similar, I think, for music. For you, it comes a lot faster. For me, I overcomplicate all the melodies. I don't know why. It's just what it is. I would say one of the top ways for increasing productivity is having a really good mentor that you keep accountability. Like you keep the accountability with meeting your goals, whether it be your personal life goals, your work goals, career goals. That, for me, by me having that, you know, it keeps me on track for feeling fueled that I'm on the right track, that I'm doing the correct thing. So I think mentorship for me helps keep my productivity levels high, because I know that I'm working towards the next thing. So I recommend that. If you're listening to this and you don't have a mentor, you're looking for mentorship or whatever that looks like for you, however that fits into your business plan, you know, that's something Rory and I both do. So you can always reach out to us. But if you know, have been thinking about it, ask us, you know, email us, ask us questions, because it's life-changing in a really positive way when you get connected with someone who can help you, come alongside you and be on that track to say, yes, you're on the right path, or maybe not. Rory's done a lot of for me. Yeah, with kindness, of course.
Well, yeah, and I don't want to leave people hanging about how do you actually get into that state very quickly, right? We're talking about, well, yeah, I mean, maybe you or I can do that quickly, but how do you do it? And there's a couple of different ways. One way is just to use what's called the power pose, right? So you know this, and it's yeah, there's a couple different ways. There's the Superman way, where you put your hands on your hip and you just stand there, right? With your chest out like Superman, and you stand there very awkwardly in this pose for like 4 or 5 minutes.
Apparently I do that longer. So whenever my husband and I are having conversations, my husband, Chris, I'll do that. This is like my natural, like, I just kind of stand like this. He's like, are we in an argument? Like, what is happening? I was like, no, why? He's like, your hands are on your hips a lot. Like just feeling in my power.
Yeah. But they're like little hacks that you can do to get into state. And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes.
Yeah, you're going to feel really silly in the beginning, but then it just becomes your normal deal. Yeah. Speaking of productivity and appointments, Rory has to go. So we're going to wrap this up, but there's a lot more that we can dive into. So maybe this is part 1. What do you think, Rory?
Yeah, this could be part 1. Yeah.
Okay. So this is going to be part 1 of, really mastering your scheduling. And hopefully you guys find this interesting. We're going to have a lot more tips coming up. I mean, I'm looking at like the list that we have to get through, and there's just not enough time for this session. So that's it for this episode, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.